What do you see when you look at a picture? The naive eye sees only what's on the paper or on the canvas. The informed eye knows something about the story behind the picture. And as you find out more information, sometimes what you see changes. This picture is a copy of an original that hangs in a museum in Texas. I realize a lot of you probably can't see what's there. I'll leave it up near the break. It shows an elderly lady sitting in a darkened room. It's a black and white picture. It's been hand tinted, so it looks antique. The informed eye knows a bit more. And the woman could have told us more. She could have told us that really this picture is a fake in a sense. It looks antique, it's really not. This was taken relatively recently by a photographer who worked routinely in color. But he took this picture in black and white and hand tinted it to create an antique effect. But the woman had said, listen, anybody from my generation would know that's not really old. She said, because back in the day before electricity, when we used to really clean the chimneys, the glass chimneys of hurricane lamps, we would never use a piece of cloth. Because in those days, cloth was too valuable. We used Spanish moss. If you had a little piece of cloth, you'd use it to patch clothes or to make a quilt out of, but you certainly wouldn't dirty it with soot and make it unusable. Back in those days, cloth was so valuable, they had to make shirts and things out of feed bags. And the companies knew this, feed companies, so they would print feed bags with patterns. Now this fine shirt is not one of those authentic feed bag shirts, but the pattern is the sort of thing that they used back in those days because they couldn't waste anything. But when a naive eye looks at this picture and perhaps sees a kinder, gentler time, a simpler time, and it feels pleasant to see. But the informed eye, realizing those times are so tough, you couldn't waste a square of cloth. The informed eye perhaps, sees a past, but a more difficult past. A past that kind of hard scrap people had to work on. It was not simple just staying alive, just enduring. But there is still more to be learned. This woman sits in a darkened room inside a church. She's sitting beside a window. The window overlooks the cemetery. Her husband is laid there for about 30, maybe 40 years. What the woman herself does not know is that she will lie beside him before the year is out. This is, in fact, her last trip outside of her home until she moves to a nursing home. So if you know that, you may see not a simple, gentler past, not even a hard scrubber past. You might see a harsh present and a bleak future. But there's still more to know. This lady and about 5 other elderly people kept that little church going. The church is located in a place called Istichata. And if you don't know where that is, well, it's right between Paniolo and Noble. It was never a big community, but it got small because once the sawmill business kind of dried up, the timber business, young people started moving away. And the little town shrank until, like I said, there were about 6 elderly people were the regulars of that little church, and the other people come from time to time. They kept it open, and they tried to do things for the community. And one of the things they did was to have a Christmas Eve service where they bring in everybody from the woods and the towns and so forth. And they'd have a service and do a little Christmas play, and they would sing hymns, Christmas carols. And then Santa Claus would walk in the door. And Santa Claus would pass out little presents, little plastic bags that would have an orange or an apple and a handful of nuts, and usually one or two pieces of candy, which usually smeared on those apples. And pass out presents for the children, which might be a handkerchief or it might be a ballpoint pen. If you're from the city, looked like nothing. But for the kids who lived in that little community, for a lot of them, that was all the Christmas they were going to get. And this lady and 5 others kept that church going until the people started coming back. They finally got the roads fixed so you could go through the swamp without going underwater. And people were able to live in Istichata and make the commute, to Coral City or to Bushnell or even Inverness in some cases. So people started moving back. And when people moved back into the community, they found the church open and waiting for them. When the lady died, she was carried to her grave by 2 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and 2 young friends. One of the friends was the photographer who took that picture. I was one of the grandchildren. So when I look at that picture, what I see is not so much a simpler time past, or even a harsh past, not so much a harsh future. What I see when I look at that picture is at least perseverance. And I think really what I see is hope. And the name of that little church is called New Hope. And I thank you.